All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. That might have been a really quick minute, even though I said minute, so I apologize. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ICWA Coffee Talk. We're going to do placement preferences today. Really quick, before we get into introductions, I just wanted to show our quick agenda for today. We're going to go through panelist introductions. We'll go through some participant instructions. We'll get into the placement preference and where you can find that information in SSIS. Then we'll get into our participant Q&A. So we'll go ahead and dive right into our panelist introductions. And again, let's see, if you can call out the next person after you introduce yourself. The first person on my screen is Richie. Can you please introduce yourself?
Bonjour, this is Richie. I'm from DHS. I'm an ICWA compliance consultant. I've been with DHS for about 2.5 years. One thing I always like to state is that tribes have dual citizenship. It's not race-based. The tribes have citizenship to, of course, America and also to their own sovereign nation. So keep that in mind. The child and the tribe are interwoven together. Without their children for the tribes, then there's no tribes. That's why it's so important to look out for the best interests of the Indian child. Miigwech, pass it on. Is it Carrie?
Oh, hani washte. Ishtama zewi hemia. Tinta winta hamataha. Umaha oyate hemia. What I said to you was in the Dakota language, good morning to each and every one of you. My name is Carrie Owen. My native name is Ishtama Zewi. I'm from the Umaha tribe of Nebraska. I was speaking in the Dakota language because I've been living here in Minnesota and I was married to a Dakota man, so I learned a little bit of the language and like to use that language because it's one of the indigenous languages of Minnesota. I'm glad to be here this morning. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and go to Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. This is Cindy Miller. I'm a compliance consultant in the DHS ICWA unit. I have been there since July of 2018. I am from the Chanseya Bay community, which is also the Lower Sioux community in southwestern Minnesota. Let's go to Eric.
Morning, everybody. My name is Eric Krett, and I have partnered with our ICWA consultant team here, as well as Summer Day, to bring you some of the pieces of SSIS training as it relates to ICWA and MIFPA in our social service information system. So I'll turn it back over to you, Summer.
Thanks, Eric. So I'm Summer Day Rosette. I work with both the ICWA unit as an SSIS ICWA training consultant and is with the Training Academy as an SSIS trainer. I've been with DHS for about 8 years now and part of the training unit for roughly 2 years, or no, I think 3 years now. I forgot, it's 2021. So again, welcome everybody. As I mentioned, this is our agenda. We do have an hour with you today. One of the things I'd like to point out under the participant instructions is that when you submit your questions, if you can please use the Q&A feature, this helps us to keep a digest of all the questions that come in. And it helps us to answer them in the order they're received. The other thing that I want to point out is that leaving the message, or excuse me, putting a question in chat, we don't have the ability to record the chat, what comes in through chat. So if you could please utilize the Q&A feature, we'd really appreciate it. All right, so let's move on. And again, welcome. Some of our quick ICWA reminders. One of the things we get a lot of questions on is release of information and whether or not one needs to be provided in order for the agencies to share, or excuse me, county agencies to share information with tribes. And so we wanted to put the statute out there and just give you guys a quick reminder that ROIs are not a requirement for sharing information with tribes. Tribes are considered automatic party in the state of Minnesota. And federal and state statute indicate that tribes can request any documentation impacting the identified child through written communication, whether that's email or letter. And the county agency is statutorily required to provide this documentation within 14 days of that request. We do have the statute here for you to review. And if there's anybody on the panel that would like to provide any additional information regarding ROIs, I'll open that up.
I think it's just, you know, it's just talking a quick story about a county attorney that I was working with. We transferred a child to tribal court, and this young county attorney said, "Richie, can we trust the tribe?" I said, you know, you sure can. They have their own government, they have their own systems, they're judges, lawyers. You can trust the tribe. The tribe keeps track like they trust you. So just keep that in mind. They're their own sovereign nation. Thank you.
Thanks, Richie. Yes. Yep, tribes are privy to the same information that a 8-county agency is privy to. The next one that we have here is the federal registrar. And I also put a link here, and yes, we can provide these links in chat. But once we get them posted to the SSIS resource page, once we get the PowerPoint posted to the SSIS resource page, you'll have the ability to review that information. One second. I'm getting a, oh.
What's that?
I guess there's that little header that I'm like, what? Why does it say I have an animation?
Wow.
And now the quick ICWA reminder thing came up, but so I just put a link here for the Midwest region because we are in the state of Minnesota, but please keep in mind that the federal registrar's link will provide you access to all the federally recognized tribes, and it identifies some individuals for each of those tribes. The next thing that we have here in our quick ICWA reminders is the MIFPA notice versus our ICWA notice, 2 separate notices. We get a lot of questions about whether or not a MIFPA notice should be sent certified mail. So we just wanted to again remind you, MIFPA notice not required to be sent by certified mail. And then the other notice, which is the ICWA notice, that must be sent by certified mail. Is there anything the panel would like to add?
I know that some counties, we've heard this before, like some tribes are requesting certified mail by MIFPA notice. You're not required to, but you certainly can do it. So I just wanted to let you know that, because I know there's been some controversy with that. Like Summer said, you're not required to send certified mail with MIFPA notice, but if they ask it, if you want to, you can. Some counties do it, some don't, but telling you the rules.
Thanks, Richie. All right, so there's 3 key points to remember when thinking about placement preference. So if a tribe has their own placement preference established, and usually that's by resolution, agencies should defer to the tribe's own placement preferences when making a placement decision. And by deferring to their placement preference, that is done when you're building that relationship with the tribe. You should have established a relationship with these with the tribe, so that you can find, so that you do know whether or not they have their own placement preference. The second one, ICWA law has established placement, has an established placement order agencies are required to follow, and due diligence and efforts to follow preferences should be documented. You want to document that because it is considered active efforts. Each placement needs to be given consideration in the following descending order, and I'll get to that order on the next screen. And then the next one, agency staff are responsible for actively engaging, assisting, and jointly working with the family and the child's tribe with development of that case plan to establish those goals, services, recommendations, and placement. And again, that is considered active efforts. So as I mentioned, we have a foster care and/or pre-adoptive placement preference. This is the established order that agencies are required to follow. Again, due diligence and efforts to follow preferences should be documented, and each placement needs to be given consideration in the following descending order. So the first one is the tribal placement preference. If the tribe has their own placement preferences established through their tribal resolution, you want to follow that one first. If they don't, it would be a member of an Indian child's Indian child's extended family, a foster home that is a licensed, approved, or specified by Indian child's tribe. If that's not available, an Indian foster home licensed or approved by an authorized non-Indian licensing authority, or an institution for children approved by an Indian child's tribe or operated by an Indian organization which has a program suitable to meet a child's needs. Anything the panel would like to add before I move on?
Just to always keep,
okay.
Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
No, go ahead, Richie, go ahead.
I was just going to touch on number 2, a member of the Indian child's descendant family. It's so important. We have these 6 provisions that we've been talking about, but inquiry is so important in that part because you're looking to find family members and you want to have that because we don't want children placed outside the extended family. It's always best to keep that family connected with them. So always make sure that you are reaching out to them. Maybe you're having family group conferences, trying to locate these family members. Here, you can go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to add that on our reviews, when we're doing our reviews and we're looking at this looking at foster care placement preference, we're looking for notes in SSIS that either when you place the children right away, that you try to contact the tribe and talk to them about, hey, we're going to place either prior if you know before. Sometimes it's an emergency and that can't happen, but immediately after that emergency, we're looking for notes in there that you're calling the tribe and saying, we're placing a child, do you have any relatives, do you have your own placement preferences, having that conversation. And usually it's just in a couple of notes or a couple of sentences, but we are looking for that in SSIS chronology.
And one thing I want to touch on number 3, foster home that is licensed approved by a tribe. We've done cases before. I've been out in the field where children are placed in this ICWA home with one tribe approved, and then another case gets open and we place these children here, and that tribe, maybe that tribe approved that home for the second home. You need to always check that out because it maybe was not an ICWA home, what I'm trying to say. Sometimes we fall into that pattern where, oh, this is the ICWA home, but it's really not. So always make sure when you're placing children in that foster home that they are approved by that tribe's home.
Right. What the definition of an Indian foster home is, one of the foster parents has to be an enrolled tribal member of a tribe for it to be considered an Indian foster home. And I think sometimes there's some confusion out there. I used to be a child protection worker and I made one big mistake. And so that's how I learned this. I thought I was placing a child in an Indian foster home only to find out it was not an Indian foster home, but it was titled an Indian foster home.
Thanks, Carrie.
Sorry, I was muted. Really quick, would one of you be able to explain what tribal resolution is and how a tribal placement preference? I was just thinking about that and wondering if that is something that we should kind of explain.
Well, a tribal resolution would be kind of like a law, or the government, the tribal government passes these resolutions that put into place how they're going to, I don't know if I'm explaining in a legal sense, but I'm trying to put it in layman terms, I guess. It tells the process of how they're going to do something. So if they want to adopt their own tribal placement preference, they'll take it to the council and then they'll talk about it and decide if that's what they're going to do. They'll sign a tribal resolution stating this is their placement preference. So it'll be totally separate and it'll be defined in there exactly what they want you to do in terms of placement preference for foster placement. Does that make sense?
Carrie. Yeah, and I think we also want you guys to keep in mind that might vary between tribes. Not all tribes will have the same established placement preference. So it's important when you create that relationship with the tribe that you're asking if they have their own established placement preferences.
And it's just so important to keep those family members with the extended family, because I had a case where it was up for 2 years and we placed these kids in a non-ICWA home, and these children know Ojibwe, and I I'd speak to them the first year, I'd speak Ojibwe to them. And I noticed like every few months when I come see them, after 2 years, I'd speak to them Ojibwe and they'd go, what's Mukwa? I don't remember. So those are the words. So you lose that connection. I just want to stress why it's so important to find these homes, these family members, or someone's affiliated to the tribe so they can keep that connection with the child and the tribe. Thank you.
That's correct. Thanks, Richie. Is anybody else hearing a really loud echo? I apologize. Or is anybody else's screen freezing up? No? Seems to be working okay? Okay. We just got a message in chat, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on my end. Okay, moving on. So for the ICWA adoptive placement preference, although similar, there are differences between the previous screen, which was the foster care and/or pre-adoption placement preference. You have the ICWA adoptive placement preferences. Agencies should follow, Agencies should follow placement preferences in the following order. Tribal placement preference, again, if established by tribal resolution, a member of an Indian child's extended family, other members of that Indian child's tribe, or other Indian families. One thing to note is that any type of bonding or attachment that resulted from time spent in a non-preferred placement is not a sufficient reason to depart from these placement preferences. Is there anything the panel would like to add?
Yeah, I was going to say why that is because we look at the whole picture. We have many kids that were placed in non-ICWA homes and they turn 18 and they come back and they try to reach out to the tribe and they feel like they're not accepted. They feel ashamed. They don't know the language. They don't know the culture, and it's hard. It's hard to do that. And so that's why we look out for the best interest of the Indian child. The tribe and the children are interwoven together. Without no children, there's no tribe. So always keep that in mind. We want to keep those children with some kind of family member so they do not feel like they're on the outside. And that's how the tribes are dwindling down because they're losing their members. So always keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a strong part of their identity. Okay, so the next portion we're going to go through are the ICWA placement preference tabs in SSIS. So I need to stop sharing my screen so that Eric can share his, and he's going to get into a quick walkthrough on where you can find these screens in SSIS and how to document in them.
Thanks.
All right. Yep.
Just to let everybody know, these are test cases and they are not real live client data. I just want to put that out there. So you should now be seeing my SSIS screen. All right, cool. So we are going to walk through both the adoptive placement preferences and the foster care placement preferences and where they're located in SSIS. So I'm going to expand one of our test clients, our test child clients. And in previous webinars, we've been mainly focusing on the ICWA folder itself. And that contains, again, all of that information related to eligibility determinations, child custody proceeding notifications, and then QEW. But the placement preferences themselves, because they're related to a continuous placement as well as a placement location and absence, that information in those tabs you're going to find down here in the permanency folder in SSIS. So what I'm going to do is first show you where to find adoptive placement preferences. And the adoptive placement preferences are going to be under the continuous placements folder under permanency. And you're going to find your most recent continuous placement. And then you'll navigate to the tab for ICWA adoptive placement preferences. And then to create a new placement preference screen, you're going to right click on the tab itself and you're going to select new ICWA adoptive placement preferences. And then you'll see the following screen. Again, as we always advise, work from top to bottom and left to right to fill out the required information on the screen. You also have the blue help text on each one of these screens to help guide you through statute as well as ICWA provisional law as related to the questions that you see on the screens. I'll just do a quick high-level overview for you due to time. The first section of the screen, you're going to answer the following. Did your local social service agency consult with the tribe regarding the need for adoption? Yes or no? For training today, we're just going to say yes. Available adoption placements and selected adoptive placement. As you can see, there are required indicators next to each one of these fields so that we're making sure that before we save the information on the screen, that we're answering all of the required questions. Then we have the all available adoptive placements types and settings. You consulted about a placement that complies with the order of preference for the adoptive placements established by an Indian child's tribe in accordance with 25 USC 1915C. And then again, you're going to read each one of these and choose what you consulted with the tribe on. In addition to your consultation with the tribe, you're going to select of the available types and settings, you're going to indicate the one that was ultimately selected. So was it a member of the Indian child's extended family? For training purposes, we'll just select that indicator, and then you've satisfied the requirement of the first part of this screen. Now, say you were not able to work within the Indian child's tribe's placement preferences, and there was good cause to depart from adoptive placement preferences under ICWA, you would then answer this question down here, yes or no. I can't unselect that. So if there was good cause, you would select yes or no down here, and then you would choose the basis for good cause. Again, you have the help text here to help guide you through this portion of your adopted placement preference screen. And the basis for good cause could be a request of one or both of the Indian child's parents, a request of the Indian child, unavailability of suitable placement after a determination by the court that a diligent search was conducted to find suitable placements, etc., or extraordinary physical, mental, or emotional needs of the Indian child, or a presence of a sibling attachment that could be maintained only through a particular placement. Now, if you did have good cause to depart from the placement preferences, and you did answer this question yes, then you would provide explanation of that good cause to depart from ICWA preferences. So this is the ICWA adoptive placement preference screen under the continuous placement. The next screen I want to walk you through is the placements, locations, and absences folder. That's going to be your foster care placement preferences. Again, you're going to navigate to your current placement. And just like under the continuous placement for the adoptive placement preferences, you're going to find ICWA placement preference tab under this placement, locations, and absences folder as well. And again, to create that, you're going to just simply right click on that tab and select a new ICWA placement preference. It looks like I have one already created here, but it is set up just like the ICWA adoptive placement preferences themselves. But this is for determining placement for foster care. Again, you're going to need to answer these questions up here in the first portion of the screen. And then you're going to choose which setting the child was placed in and what you consulted with the tribe on, yes or no. And then ultimately you're going to make that selection to the one where the child is ultimately placed. And then again, you have to indicate good cause to depart from placement preferences in the bottom section of the screen here, as well as provide explanation under the summary of departure from ICWA preferences. So learning objectives here, your adoptive placement preferences are under the continuous placement folder of the permanency folder, and your placement, foster care placement preferences are under the placements, locations, and absences folder. And if you have any questions about filling out the SSIS screens, please type those in the Q&A, and hopefully we'll be able to answer those for you. And I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it back over to Summer Day and the rest of the panel.
All right, thanks, Eric. I'm going to share my screen so we can get these resources shared here. Bear with me, and then we'll move right into the Q&A. So while we're getting this first Q&A question going, I'll get that screen shared so you can see all these additional resources that are available to you. All right, so let's go into our first question. Okay, so this question comes in from Heather Capistrand. Can an SS agency release juvenile delinquency information under the ROI statute to a tribe in addition to child protection information?
I could take a shot at that one. ICWA does not cover most juvenile delinquency proceedings. However, it does apply to status offense cases. So that would include like an offense that would not be a crime if committed by an adult, like a runaway or truancy. So if it's a juvenile delinquency proceeding, you're going to have to distinguish between whether it's a status offense or not.
Hi, Heather. Heather is an attorney at Ramsey County. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Heather. Hi.
All right. All right. Next question comes in from Jill Esch. Parents and/or Indian custodians must also be served via certified mail, RRR. They can also be served via personal services, but personal service is not in lieu of certified mail as required under ICWA. So that's Jill Esch providing some additional information regarding who is supposed to receive the ICWA notice by certified mail.
Jill Esch is our state ombudsperson for the American Indian families. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. Thank you for adding that piece of information in, Jill. But what's RRR? Why can't I get that? Does anybody else know?
Registered receipt.
Oh.
Registered return receipt?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Return receipt requested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dang it, I was close.
I don't know if I don't know if we forgot to put that in there or what, but yes, that's very important. Both parents must receive it. And also, if two parents are living in the same household, registered mail needs to be sent to them separate. So one to the father and one to the mother, so that you have two separate and can prove that both of them got those, received the certified mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just listing, you know, the difference between the ICWA notice and the MISPA notice, and obviously you would want to still follow under ICWA who's supposed to receive that ICWA notice by certified mail. It's just one of our quick tips. Okay, next question from Amanda Semler. I am working with some external agencies and I have chosen a home for a little boy. How do I know if they will be ICWA approved?
Hi, Amanda, that's a good question. So for this, the answer for this is you would be working with the tribes, and the tribes would let you know that if this is an ICWA approved home. They would let you know if it is not an ICWA home, if they approve of this home, or they may start looking for a home from a relative of this child. Anybody else have anything to add? Richie,
yeah, I would add that it's not uncommon, you know, to not be able to find an ICWA home right away. So if you have to place the child somewhere else, you obviously need to have the tribe on board and let them know what's going on and keep them in the loop and keep looking.
Yep. And there's, I mean, like Cindy said, it's not uncommon, but it should be common. We should be able to be reaching out to these family members. There's other ways to be finding these family members. So just keep that in mind. Do active efforts, and you have a relative, interview them, find out other relatives, and maybe have a family group conference with these relatives coming together where this child could be placed. That's one of the best things that we found if we've had hard cases where we can't place children.
I just had a case I was reviewing the other day with a county, and they had a child that they had to take out of the home right away and put on a police hold. They asked the mom, do you have a relative we can put the child with? And she said yes, and she gave them a name, and they were able to put that child there just temporarily, and they didn't even have to do the police hold until they could figure everything out. And so that's kind of a...
Yeah, and that's great, Carrie, because when that child's pulled, they remember being pulled by the police officer. So if they can transfer to a relative, that's less trauma, less exposure for that child. They need less of that. So yeah, that's great if they can do that.
Thanks, everyone. She had a follow-up to that original question, and she says, okay, so they have to be enrolled. I'm assuming she means an enrolled member of that tribe for it to be considered a true ICWA home.
No, I think she's talking about what I had stated earlier about it being what the definition of an ICWA foster home.
Yeah.
And so that's what she's, I think, referring to. And I think Jill.
Sorry about that.
I'm moving on, but Jill had a question about where the language is that defines an ICWA foster home, and that's in ICWA, Jill. I can get that for you, but I don't have it right now. But I did find that in the federal ICWA, the federal law.
And we can, if we're able to find it in the meantime, we can provide it in chat. If not, we'll put it on our resource page when we post the link to the SSIS. Excuse me, we'll put it on the resource page. It's okay. We'll put a link to what Carrie's referring to, the definition of the Indian foster home, on our ICWA MIFPA resource review page that you're able to see now on the PowerPoint. And once it's posted to the SSIS resource page, you'll have access to those links. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I have understood that tribal placement preference as the verbal correspondence with the ICW worker on what they would like to have as the child's placement. Hold on a sec. That's a tough one. I have understood tribal placement preference as the verbal correspondence with the ICW worker on what they would like to have as the child's placement.
Well, that is one of the placement preferences, is talking to the tribe, and then the tribe says, hey, we have a relative, or yeah, that place that you place the child is okay for now until we find relatives. All that is when you're doing that work with the ICWA worker, you're practicing placement preferences, because you're working with the tribe, and they determine, working with them first to see if they have a placement preference passed by resolution, and then getting their input on where you should place this child.
And always document that you are working with that tribe and that you're asking that. That's what we're looking at when we're doing our review. So make sure that's all in there too.
Thank you. All right, next question from Ashley Rankin. I have a foster family where one of the applicants is on the auxiliary role. Would they be an ICWA home?
What's the auxiliary role?
Yeah, what's the auxiliary? Sorry. I think it's like they're going to be, I think. I'm guessing.
Is this like
Are they like a descendant or something? Is that what they're saying?
Well, all I can say to the answer to that would be, if the tribe says that that's okay, that you can place that child and they're in agreement with it, then you're doing everything you need to do. So whether they're auxiliary or not, if the tribe approves of that placement, that's just making sure you're documenting that, Ashley.
All right, thanks everyone. Next question, if there is no tribal resolution regarding placement preference, what does that mean?
That means that the tribe, I can try. Do you
It
want to
just
answer
means
this
that
one,
you
Cindy?
follow the placement preferences under ICWA as they are. Because if the tribe has a resolution that where they have a different order of preference, then you would follow that. If they don't have a resolution, then you would follow ICWA placement preferences.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay, next question. Is SSIS adoptive placement preference only completed when at permanency?
Yeah, if you're moving towards if it's an adoption, that's when you would be completing that portion. If it's not an adoption, if it's still in foster care placement, then you wouldn't be doing the adoption portion. I feel like there might be
Thank
more
you.
to that, Carrie. I hope
yeah.
if you have another part of that question, just go ahead and put it in the Q&A if we haven't answered what you are asking. Thank you.
You're always
Okay,
checking with
next
the tribe for placement preference. You're just checking with them all the time where this child was placed. And if there's a disagreement with placement preference, always make sure that you're developing a relationship with that tribe and understanding why that is. But the tribe's places that child in that home, then that's what you need to follow. We've been, I guess I kind of go on a soapbox here, but we've been placing children for 200 years in other homes, boarding schools, and the tribes are the experts. And the tribe says they want their children placed in this home. That's in the best interest of that child. Just keep that in mind.
Thanks everyone. Let's see. Next question. Does the placement preference screen need to be completed for children whose cases are in tribal court and placements are, I don't know what are my tribal, or I don't know what she's trying to say, and placements are done by tribal family services, I think is what is going on there, but county is CFR, but do not make decisions on placement homes. Be completed. So for this one, this is an SSIS question. So for the placement preference screens, or if the county is the county of financial responsibility, and you're just documenting, the required information for that as far as payments go, the placement preference screens, once you should have completed the date in the ICWA tabs under transfer to tribal court. If that date is listed under transfer to tribal court, the other requirements under ICWA, like active efforts, Eric, can you help me out here? They shouldn't be required if they're county of financial responsibility and it's in tribal court. If the ICWA tab transfer to tribal court has been completed, then the other requirements under ICWA should not be required by the agency to complete.
I think you said it.
Okay.
The tribal court tab has to be answered in the affirmative that it has been transferred. But the county agency and the tribe should continue to work together, in regard to that child and continue documenting.
All right,
For
perfect,
example,
thank you. Yep.
I don't know if you want me to give an example in that case. I mean, I've seen a county where the tribe took jurisdiction over the case in tribal court, but there was a child that was still in that county and they needed to do that face-to-face visit with the child every month. And the county agreed to go ahead and do that for them. And then they just agreed on who would report that information. So sometimes that's how a county and a tribe decide to work it out. And that's up to them to work it out that way. So it's good to have that communication.
Yeah, I would follow up with that when I I've seen cases that have been transferred into a tribal court, and you know, oftentimes the worker from the county agency will show up like at a review hearing along with the tribal social services people. And they work together.
So even though the county is the county of financial responsibility, you're saying it's important for them to continue to work together for that specific child?
Well, in this
Okay,
particular tribe and county, that's how they handled
That's
it.
how they did it.
In some places, it's not like that, but
Yeah, that one happened up in Red Lake. So, I mean, there's certain tribes that are gonna say, no,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be in there. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Always communicate. with
it depends on the tribe and the county.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
We're just giving examples. We're not saying that's how it's always done. We're just giving examples of some places of how it's done.
Mhm. Best interest, spirit of ICWA. Okay, so next question. If you did not discuss adoption with the tribe because you did not do an adoption, do you just select no for all questions? You wouldn't even, if you didn't discuss that adoption with the tribe, and I'm assuming you're referring to the tabs in SSIS, do you select no for all questions? If you
Yeah, I think
you
you're
aren't
on the
doing
right track.
adoption,
Summer,
Go ahead.
you wouldn't fill out the tab for the adoptive placement preferences if adoption wasn't on the table.
Yeah.
You would fill out the tab under the placement location and absence folder for ICWA placement preferences instead.
Thank you.
next question. So is it enough to go from ICWA placement preferences based on the Indian child's mother's wishes? Mother is the Native American parent. The tribe is still the one that needs to be consulted in this situation.
It should be consulted, but usually the mom, if the mom says he wants the child placed there, usually the tribe usually goes that way, but always consult the tribe and let them know what the mom's decision is.
Yeah, under MIFPA, for order of placement preference, it does say that the court can place the child outside of the preferences. And one of the good cause exceptions is based on the reasonable request of the parent. So they can consider that, but that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen.
So you still are obligated to, I just want to add on to that, you're still obligated in that case or required by law to work with the tribe on placement preferences, to have that discussion and have that ongoing communication with them regarding placement.
All right, thank you. Next
Miranda?
question from, yeah, are we supposed to send MIFPA notice to parents as well? No, ma'am. MIFPA notice is sent to the known tribe.
Phone call, fax, or email. And
Within
leave a
24
message.
hours of a screened in report, you have to do the MIFPA notice, as Richie said. Your phone call and email within 24 hours.
And who you spoke to, or if you left a message with, just document that. And then you're golden.
Next question, what happened?
Rachel Morin says children are removed from their homes. They are not pulled. So one of us might have said pulled. We apologize for that. You're right, Rachel. Children are removed from homes. Thank you.
All right, next question. What happens if the tribe does not call me back or email me back? I have a lot of difficulty with communication with them.
Sometimes if it's an in-state tribe, go out there and meet with them. Go and speak with them, go that way, develop a relationship with them. You got to develop a relationship with them. That's one of the best things that you can get a hold of that tribe. Or if it's an out-of-state tribe, contact the Minneapolis American Indian Center. These are just ideas that you can use if you're having a tough time getting a hold of tribes. That number at the Indian Center is 612-879-1700, and the contact person would be Laura Newton. That's for out-of-state tribes. They have contracts. But relationships, that's what you want. Meet with the tribes.
Richie, can you give me that number one more time and I'll put it in the chat?
It's 612-879-1700. And contact person would be Laura Newton at the Minneapolis American Indian Center. Just to go after example, I had 20 cases with White Earth Tribe. I went up to White Earth and I met with them 20 years ago. And they didn't have their government center then. It was up at Nadawash, the complex. And to this day, I have a great relationship with White Earth Tribe because they were so impressed. I actually went up there and I met with them and I discussed each case and kind of what was going on. So that's what you need to do. That's how you're going to get people to contact you and give you a call back. It's active efforts.
Yep. Just continue to document that you're continually reaching out. Yeah. All right. So next question is Trish Schilling. Do you only do the ICWA adoption placement preference tab once adoption is the plan? Or is this tab completed along with the placement North Star preference tab due to concurrent planning? I do not know the answer to this question. Eric, would you happen to know? If not, we can follow up with this question. We'll follow up on this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking, sorry, my wheels are spinning. So yeah, there is a primary and a concurrent placement plan.
Right.
I need to get clarification on that because my gut is telling me that if the concurrent plan, or I'm sorry, yeah, the concurrent plan is for permanency is adoption, then that tab might have to be filled out because the tribe would obviously have to be consulted. So I think we'll have to get back to that person on that question. Okay.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, we like to be stumped for sure. So we'll make sure and get back to you on this question and we'll send the answer out to the group. Okay. Next question. Any idea what percentage of tribes have their own placement preferences?
No, I don't think we have any kind of data on that at all. Would be nice to know, but I don't have any information. Do any of you?
No, I don't.
Richie, you're on mute.
My child was going active here. There's probably one in Minnesota, I think, but that's about it though. They kind of do that route. Glad seen.
All right. Okay, next question. Do medical homes come over tribal preference? I want to say, do medical homes come over tribal preference? Excuse me.
I think that's included as maybe one of the reasons you would go on, you would maybe not follow tribal preference, or am I saying that?
But usually they speak to the tribe and stuff, and the tribe will say yes. I mean, a lot of homes, the tribes, if the child has needs serious medical issues and stuff to take care of them, the tribe says yes, the child can be placed there. But I always speak to the tribe. I mean, that's one.
Yeah, the tribe would help you determine whether you're going to not follow the placement preferences due to a child needed in a medical home. So just document all that you're working with the tribe on that.
That is under MIFA as well. It's one of the good cause exceptions.
Yes.
It would be due to extraordinary physical or emotional needs of the child that require like highly specialized services. But again, that's something that the tribe would have to agree with.
Great, thank you. Next question, anonymous, how would you address the situation where the tribe's placement preference is with a home or a family member that is not able to get foster care licensed?
Well, I mean, you always want to do like if they need a variance, help them out with a variance. You know, if that's the thing that's going to help them or show that you can assist them that way. Or I like what Fond du Lac does, the tribe, where they have grandmas who can't, they they're having a tough time getting licensed and stuff. Well, they take them, they pick up the grandma and they have daycare for the child while they're watching them, and to help that family get licensed. So there's lots of active efforts that you can do. So that's one thing. I don't care if you got anything more.
Yeah, I've just seen cases where they weren't able to get foster care license, and then they work with them. And like they said, they were able to get a variance. Sometimes it takes a long time to get a variance, but that's something you can talk with your county attorney about too, to help. And so just making sure that you're working with the tribe and your county supervising attorney to try to figure out the best way to resolve that situation if that's where the tribe is saying they want them placed. There must be a reason for it if the tribe is saying they want them placed there, so.
All right, thank you. Next question. Most of our tribal cases start in tribal court. Would we use the initial placement date as the transfer to tribal court date? I mean, I guess you could.
Wait, what? Wait, I'm trying to figure this out.
This is an SSIS question. That's okay. Most of our tribal cases start in tribal court. Would we use the initial placement date as the transfer to tribal court date?
I would assume you would use the, I don't know, I'm just taking a stab at this, but you would use the transfer to tribal court date, I would imagine.
Yeah.
When you get the official court order from the judge saying it's been transferred, that's when you do the date. That's when it's official. Nothing happens till you get that court order.
Even the transfer to tribal court is ordered by the tribe, so that the date on that order, is that what you're referring to, Richie?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the state when they transfer to tribal court. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. Because it says most of our tribal cases start in tribal court.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer that then. That's a SSI question.
Yeah. Or save the question, we can look at it or something, but I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
which one is it?
if it started in tribal court, would you just put the date the case started in tribal court? Is that the same as the placement date though? Like, this is a situational question.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that. That's kind of interesting question. I mean, I like it, but I don't think we can give an answer just right off the bat like that one.
I think these questions that are stumping us, we can address in our next webinar regarding adoptions and ICWA. So these are really good questions, and we'll try to get back to you in a couple weeks during our next webinar.
The next question is, can you email out the PowerPoint? The PowerPoint will be posted on the SSIS resource page. We didn't have the ability to email to everybody that participated because of the way you registered for the training. We don't have a log of everybody that's registered, so we couldn't email it out unless you wanted to put your email in chat and we can send it out to you, but then we don't want 283 emails in chat. That would be kind of hard to navigate through, so we'll post it to the SSIS resource page. I hope that is okay with everyone. Jill is listing in the next Q&A a suggestion. I also suggested that social workers can reach out to tribal council if unable to reach tribal child welfare workers. Okay, thanks, Jill. Anonymous, could you help me understand why the tribe's preference supersede a birth parent's wishes to not have the tribe involved? Also, why the tribe's preferences supersede any attachment bonding that has already occurred in a non-preferred placement? Isn't that more detrimental to a child's well-being? Loss of identity is definitely more detrimental to a child's well-being. But I'll turn it over to the ICWA.
Okay, there's a lot of questions in there.
Yeah.
Yep, first one, could you help me understand?
Yes, read that first part. Could you help me understand why the tribe's preference supersede a birth parent's wishes to not have the tribe involved? Plus, because the tribe is a sovereign nation, they have political status. It's different. There's no other you know, we have the United States and you have the tribe, like Leech Lake is a tribal nation, a sovereign nation. They need their children. They have a political status to say what's going to happen with their children. That's kind of political status is the way. I don't know if Carrie or Cindy want to.
Well, yeah, it's their own government, their own nation. It would be like if the birth parent doesn't want the county involved. They probably don't want the county involved either, but you have to be involved for the protection of that child. Well, that's the same thing with the tribe. It's larger, and the tribe is a nation, and they have say over the children. We are considered it's a cultural thing also, but it's also political status. The tribe can intervene with the child at any time. They are like another parent almost.
Yeah. I like that because they have the judges, lawyers, they have their own attorneys, and they will take care of these children. They have that say. And it's important what Carrie said. I love what Carrie said about it's just like when they have involved in, you know, child protection, they don't have a say.
They don't want you there.
We can't have Hennepin County in there or whatever county in there. I'm sorry. Okay, well, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, okay, well, back off then. You don't want us to place the child. You know?
Yeah,
the same thing.
I appreciate that too. I appreciate the way you said that because we get a lot of questions even with the ROI, you know, and not releasing information to the tribe. The tribe, just think of the tribe as just like the county agencies. They're privy to that information too. So the second part is why the tribe's preference supersede any attachment bonding that has already occurred in a non-preferred placement. And isn't that more detrimental to a child's well-being?
Well, and we kind of said this before, we touched earlier about this. We look at the whole picture. This child in the beginning, they say the child, I've been in many cases that say the child is attached, they're bonding, they're thrive. But when that kid gets older, they're looking out, they're trying to find their culture and connection. And if they go that route, they're separated from the tribe. And there's so many connections that these children need. And if they don't have that, then there's no child for that tribe. And that means the tribe will eventually die out if we go down that preference. It's always best keep the child in the tribe interwoven.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Richie or Harry? On the placement preference tabs in SSIS, under the basis for good cause, there is a reason that has to do with parents' wishes. So that's all taken into consideration, right? When placing the child and talking to the tribe and talking to the courts. I mean, it's it's to the benefit of the child, right? But one of the basis for good cause is at the parent's wish. So all of that is being taken into consideration.
That's correct. And I think Richie had mentioned that. He said, you know, that the tribe would take that into consideration if the parents are saying that, but that doesn't stop you from communicating with the tribe about that. But that is definitely something that the judge would take into consideration and the tribe. It's a decision they all make together. It's not just the parent's decision and when it involves an Indian child.
And if that's big of an issue, usually they have that worked out and stuff. But yeah, you would meet with that tribe and have like a conference, you know, kind of going over what's going on and why we're looking at this. So we don't have like major issues like that. Always relationships, develop them, meet with those tribes.
And if I may also interject, we do have a family brochure that was put together by the ICWA consultant unit. And a lot of times, you know, maybe families don't understand or are not educated in ICWA and MIFPA and the benefits of that. So our role as social worker, as we're working with families and providing active efforts, is to also inform them of ICWA provisions and MIFPA with that family brochure. And I'm going to put that in the chat for you in just a second when I find the link.
Thank you, Eric.
Let's see, are we done with that question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Right. Question about Laura Newton at the Minneapolis American Indian Center. Laura Newton is only used for out-of-state tribes, or can she assist for getting in touch with tribes in Minnesota as well?
It's mainly out-of-state tribes, what she does. I mean,
a lot of Minnesota tribes have offices in the cities And you can definitely contact them. I know White Earth does, Leech
Leech
Lake
Lake.
does. So if they have those in your near in the metro area, you can also contact them too. They might be helpful.
And then, thank you. The next, Jill has a comment. The American Indian Family and Children Services Executive Director Lucy Favorite licenses foster homes through the state of Minnesota. So that's the American Indian Family and Children Services. Next.
Yep. Yeah, and that's usually that's helpful to get for if you're having a. Usually they do more work to help that child get licensed and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice going that route.
Yeah, Lucy's been doing that for years. She's got so much expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. Go ahead, Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading it in my mind and I actually said it out loud. Sorry.
Okay, what variance are you referring to when a relative cannot get licensed?
Well, there's a process that you can apply for variances, and you would work with the licensing agency that you're going through. They can apply for variances to get somebody licensed. Like there might be a something on their record where they got a DWI 10 years ago or something, so they might not be licensable. But there's certain things that you can get variances for to say, hey, this is something that happened a long time ago. It hasn't happened in the recent, 5 years. They've went through treatment, they've done all this stuff. And so you could get a variance. It takes a while, and you can talk to your supervisor at the county you work in, and they can help you with that, or your county attorneys.
Really quick, I just wanted to point out that we've gone through our time. It is 11:03. We've been pushing through, and we do have some questions, some additional questions to get through. This is where we kind of put it to the group to see if they're available to stay. I know, Richie, you have a prior engagement. And if not, we can get these questions answered and put out and posted as well, along with the others. So what would you guys like to do?
It doesn't look like we have that many more questions, but that doesn't mean we won't get more. But if we could stop at 11:30, I can still go on. I don't know about you, Cindy.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going for a little bit more. I'm going down to the where I'm going, judicial branch in Hennepin for smudging. So I have to get off soon, but I can
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm dressed up for it.
Okay.
You're glowing. Okay,
Yep.
Next question. Is the ICPC process taken into consideration in time needed to complete home studies and or get approvals when we are looking at preference to be placed with family in an out-of-state tribe?
Yes, that's taken into consideration. And I could tell you, if you're having a hard time with ICPC, that shouldn't stop you from following the placement preference for too long. There is, you can contact, if you're having a hard time and it's taking a lot longer, you can, I can't remember if Brianna was here, she could tell you the person to contact, but there is a contact person you can call if you need assistance with
At DHS,
yeah, DHS.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to. Is there more questions coming?
But that you touched base on that.
Yeah,
you
there
can easily
are.
get that quicker, so that can be done.
Yeah. Yep. But
All
yeah, just
right,
make sure
you.
that the only thing I could say to you right now, Anonymous, is just that make sure you're documenting all of that. We can't really get back to you if you don't let us know who you are to give you that information of someone you can contact at DHS, but maybe we'll just figure out a way to get that information out. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so petition was filed in tribal court. Okay, next question. If a family is not able to be licensed, it is due to a bar, not a disqualifier. I have worked in ICWA cases that the preference was for a relative who had lost custody of her own children and was struggling with her own use. If you have not been sober for the last 2 years, you cannot be licensed. That's from Carrie Johnson.
Thank you, Carrie. And I know that the tribes can license their own homes too. So I don't know, if there's a difference there too, because tribes can determine how they license their homes.
Yeah, and just to throw that out there, this could be, maybe this person's a Indian custodian, maybe they've taken care of this child, so that child could be placed there, but that's another thing to go at, because they're considered as a parent.
Thank you. Next case with from Heather Capistran. I have 2 children eligible for membership in homes that are specialized in medical care due to the child's extensive medical needs. We have worked jointly with both tribes, and both tribes support these homes. The key is to work jointly with the tribe. Thanks,
Yes.
Heather.
Good job.
Thank you, Heather. Awesome.
Yay.
That's why I like her so much.
Robin Stryker, if a case,
Sorry. I should raise my hand more. Sorry, I'm raising my hand. Ashley Holmes put in the chat the contact people for ICPC at the state.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Ashley Holmes. So take a look at the chat. Ashley, HOLMES, and Ashley Baltich, BALTICH, are the DHS ICPC contacts. And the email is mn.icpc@state.mn.us.
You see, Ashley was in my head. I could see her, but I couldn't say it. I knew she was there. Good.
Okay. Let's see. Eric.
okay, next question. Our understanding about the originating in tribal court question is that ICWA does not apply in these cases, so we wouldn't complete a transfer to tribal court at all. The answer would be no. Oh, it's moving on me, sorry. Okay, the answer would be no to the ICWA question since this is open in tribal court from the get-go.
ICWA does not apply in tribal court. So if it starts out in tribal court, it's non-ICWA. They have their own statutes and rules in each tribal court. If it's transferred into tribal court from the county, then that's something different.
Yep.
Agreed.
And ICWA would apply, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it would. So I think this is in relation to the question earlier, the SSIS question that we were going to follow up on when they said if the, they wanted to know what the date should be. Does it make a difference when it is a voluntary placement? Does what make a difference?
A difference
I guess
with
it's
regards
kind
to
of
what? I'm not really sure what that means.
yeah, I'm not either.
I don't either. Sorry. I don't know what they're, I don't know
Be a
the
bunch of
part
things.
or what makes the difference. So
Be a bunch of things.
Can you define an Indian custodian? I've never understood what that means. I have provided the link to the definition in chat and in Q&A in previous coffee talks. So we
It's
could
also under MIFBA, under the definition section. So
does someone have it available to read?
I have it. It means an Indian person who has legal custody of an Indian child under tribal law or custom or under state law, or to whom temporary physical care, custody, and control has been transferred by the parent of the child.
So that could be like a parent that's a relative's been taking care of this child for like a month, and that could be like an Indian custodian. There's a gray area there, but there's been many cases that we've done that in the court system we've done. So it depends. If you've taken care of this child, you could be classified as an Indian custodian. It's a gray area.
A good example would be my parents. When I was younger, they left me with my grandparents. And for a year or so, thank goodness, I loved it. It was the best time of one of the best times of my life. But then my grandparents took over care for me, and so they would be considered my Indian custodian at that time. So it's like our own natural child protection system. If it's how families help each other out, it could be a form of how families help each other out.
The next one says the county does not intervene if a birth mom, non-native, is making a voluntary adoption plan, so it is not the same.
Yeah, I didn't want to answer that because I don't know exactly what she's asking, but if you take a stab at it, thank you. But I don't know if that, I just don't know the other part of that, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I don't know the answer to it either. I was just going on to the next question or statement. So anonymous, if you can provide some additional information. I think those are, oh wait, there is one last question that there's two actually that came up. The first one is in relation to the Q&As from previous coffee talks. Those will be posted on the SSIS resource page once we're done with the series, so that we can get them all posted along with their PowerPoint and with their, or with the PowerPoint that we are posting on the resource page. We plan to potentially post those in other areas, including the ICWA Partners and Providers page. And then the next question that was on here is, if a case starts in tribal court, wouldn't we say in SSIS that ICWA does not apply?
Well, if it starts in tribal court and stays in tribal court, it's under tribal jurisdiction, so you wouldn't,
So this would be a county of financial responsibility, I'm assuming?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, then I don't know how different counties do it different, so I can't answer that question.
I'm gonna post in chat the link to a document that had come out regarding what county agencies' responsibilities are and what tribal agencies' responsibilities are when they are county of financial responsibility and when the tribe has the legal responsibility, I believe is the term. Bear with me.
We have I think there's a bulletin that came out. Are you talking about the bulletin from 2018?
It might be, yeah. I don't know the date on it. I know it wasn't too long ago. Go ahead, Carrie.
Well, while you're doing that, I would like to share a story about placement preferences that I think is really helpful. I know Richie brings this up a lot about really utilizing the family group decision making. It's a really good tool when we're talking about placement preferences, because oftentimes when we send letters out to parents or families, they might respond by saying, nope, I don't want to be a placement. Nope, I can't be a placement right now, blah, blah, blah. Or you might even have a family a relative that maybe comes in and is involved once in a while, but is like, nope, we can't be a placement and stuff. Really to utilize that family group decision making. I was a foster parent for a while, and we had some of our grandchildren placed with us, 4 boys, and we weren't able to be a long-term foster care placement because my husband had health issues. So we let them know, we took them in for a weekend, but they ended up with us for over a year. I don't know, maybe it was almost 2 years. I can't remember now. There was so much that happened. But the worker on this case finally decided after a while, because he had asked relatives and relatives were like, no, we won't be a placement. He finally had a family group decision making, and it was an awesome thing that he did, because it really, really, I think, exceeded all of our expectations. He had it here on the reservation where we live, and they brought food. They invited every family member they can think of around here to come. And we all talked about everything, and lo and behold, 2 of the family members said, yes, we would be a foster placement for these kids. And so I think, there was a lot of apprehension because they didn't, they had no idea, that they just kind of figured the kids would be placed with them and boom, that was it there. So there's a lot of fear there. Like, what if, we don't get the support we need? But we were able to get the kids in, therapy. We were able to get them into cultural activities. We got things in place for them. And when other family members found that out, that they had that and they could still continue to have that, then they volunteered and they stepped up and said, yes, we will be a placement for these kids. So it turned out really good. I know Richie has other stories about that too. So sometimes just sending letters out to family members, and it takes a little bit more than that sometimes. I know for me, when I get those letters, when I first got those letters prior to being a foster parent, I was like, oh gosh, I don't even know, I didn't even know who some of these children were, although we were related to them. Had somebody came and talked with us or invited us or whatever, and it might have been different. I might have been able to step up and be a foster parent even at an earlier stage. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, it's so important just to go out and knock on the doors. I remember being up at 8 o'clock at night up on Leech Lake Reservation, knocking on the doors, trying to get these family members, develop a relationship with them. And lo and behold, we did. We got them to a family group conference the next week, and we got these children placed. Like Carrie's, just like we had a meal, we had the children placed. And we also had an obstacle where this county said, well, we can't have a family group conference if the mom's not going to be there, because so we had to get a court order. The judge had to order that and get that family group conference ordered, and those children were placed. And so in this case was open for 2+ years. So now these children are placed with a home, because they were in a foster home, where an ICWA home, but they weren't loved, they weren't cared for. They were just there. They were just doing it for the money. And once they got into the home of these relatives, they were there, they're taken care of. So just keep that in mind. It's always best to be with a relative if you can. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you all for your
Thanks,
hard
everyone.
work. Thank you for attending today. We really appreciate it. I'm glad we can do this work together. And if we don't answer questions, please use our CRM. Send us questions. We try to get to them. I'm on call this week, so I just realized that. So thank you all so very much.
Agreed. I
Thank
did
you.
put the legally and financially responsible agency roles under North Star Care for Children document in the chat. I provided the link. Yeah, if nobody else has any lasting questions, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. We appreciate you spending this time with us. And again, I second Carrie's sentiments, and hope you all have a great rest of your day. I will hold